All right, guys. So I'm doing another offline video because I didn't really get to stream, so I can't really talk about this on stream because I had some bad cheese and I've been in and out of the bathroom all night. But anyway, I wanted to check out this whole um, Destiny Mr. Beard thing because apparently it's just getting crazier and crazier and crazier. Um, this all kind of falls in over a very out of context tweet, or rather, a TikTok that a TikToker put up where Destiny interacted with the girl, and I believe it was mostly her content. For some reason, he didn't get recordings of it. I guess he was throwing her a little bit of a bone. Maybe he threw multiple. I don't know. Um, and so he doesn't have access to the footage. He's tried to get access to the footage. Apparently she's like, oh, it doesn't exist anymore. Okay, I don't know why. I feel like, why would you delete that footage like instantly after you use it? I don't know. But it makes Destiny look pretty bad. Oops, sorry about that. Now, I think at the end of my video, I'm going to add in my initial reaction to the situation with Destiny and stuff, even though I also fell for it. Because I think, this way I would go through the messages in the way that like I initially got it. I'm pretty sure now that those messages are out of context, but I fell for it too. A lot of people fell for it. A lot of people got upset. I understand why. I got a little upset too, you know? I will say that the Twitter argument with Mr. Beard, Ryan, they changed their name to Ryan Beard, it's pretty crazy. It's heating up. I'm just happy I'm not on Twitter. You know what I mean? I like the fact that I was able to go on stream and talk about the topic and not put my hat into the ring on what's going on instantly in a weird toxic Twitter mess, like a lot of people do. Because it's just I don't have for, especially since you don't make money on Twitter. Why argue on Twitter? That's how I look at it. I'm looking at this more as like a job, not in the sense that like I don't like it, I enjoy it, but like I come on, I have fun on my stream, and then I log off. I try to have when I'm off stream. I try not to be online. I create that boundary for myself. So I'm not always go. Twitter's just a hot take machine. I don't like it. Okay. So now, being said, when it comes to the out of context clip, one of the things that I find interesting is that I've seen Destiny talk about the clip, and maybe he changed his mind, but this is what I got out of it. Obviously, he said it was out of context, but the biggest thing is that he doesn't think that there was malicious intent from the girl who clipped him out of context. Right? Which is interesting, because I don't really see how. There's one of three things that girl might have done. The first is it's not really out of context, which I doubt, because Destiny says it's not. And I know it's like, well, of course not. He usually stands behind his takes, even if people disagree with him. So I don't think that he would just be flipping the script just because he gets out a backlash. But it could be wrong. But the one, potentially, I'm doubtful, it could be within context. And all the girl did was remove all the breaths, like in between. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's like that's how you do TikTok. There's like a whole meme where people will put Subway Surfers because people can't like tune in for a certain amount of time on any topic. And so, when I used to make TikToks, I would cut my breath. I would like, oh, okay, hey guys, what's going on, blah, blah, and I would stop the video and take a breath, and then I would go to be as efficient as possible. Part of that is because you only had a minute back in the day, and you're just trying to get it all in there. But like that's good when you're trying to do like capture, like get people to tune in. I also am obese, so I would pause and start and stop a lot. So that's one thing that she just cut down, the breaths basically. Which is probably not what happened. Two, this is what Destiny thinks, I think, is that she had an idea of what she wanted to be said in general, and then she bounced off what was said. But it had nothing to do with Destiny. But she usually does this on other things, and so she's not used to having another person to worry about in some capacity. So she unintentionally made him look like a rapist, basically, by the way that she presented him. But it wasn't intentional. It was her goal to have like, oh, this is what I want, is what somebody's saying, and this is what I want to respond to that they're saying. But who the person is irrelevant. It's just what is being said. I believe that's the take. I don't know. That's very charitable, and that's my thing. Is it's so charitable to those people, to her, but not charitable to other people that Destiny's been interacting with on Twitter. So I found it a little interesting. Lastly, it's possible she just did it intentionally to make him look like one. I don't know, man. I feel like it's still up. Last time I checked, I could be wrong, but last time I checked, that clip was still up. And if that was still up, I would have been like, "Yo, you made me look like a sussy baka. I need you to take it down." I feel like I would have said that because it's too intense. Yeah, I believe it's still up. Oh no, it's not. Okay, so she removed the video. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. It took her a while, but she apparently removed the video. Okay, but she still has this original one here.
Do you think most guys are good at like reading signals and everything?
No, but I think a lot of guys are also okay with transgressing the signals they do read.
Really?
So you think it's just sheer?
Okay. All right. Well, that one doesn't necessarily mean it's out of context. I don't know. Okay. It's interesting because I was up for multiple days. Okay, cool. So she removed it. Maybe it was well-intentioned. It took her a long time, though. I feel like it's like 2 days to take that, take that clip down. I would have taken it down immediately. That was a little... Okay. But she took it down. So you know what? Give her a little bit of a pass. Anyway. Okay. With all that fun stuff being said, as people know, I'm a friend of Ryan. Ryan's a good person. Okay, I also like Destiny. He's a smart person, but he's not a good person. I'm just kidding. And so I kind of wanted to weigh in and see what's going on, the back and forth, something to do. Let's get it going. So I'm a little bit of a Twitter boomer. Okay, so we're gonna start. Where are we gonna start, bro? I guess we'll start here. This is so... I hate Twitter. And of course, Bullbox didn't make a video about it. So, like, what a nerd. So this is the original video. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to put, like, my original take where I thought it was what Disney actually said. So when you watch that, take it with a grain of salt. So it's a pretty out of context clip. Not great. And so... But there's a lot of jump cuts. Like, I'm not going to play the full thing, but if you watch it, like, here we go.
I don't think anybody wants to be a rapist.
Boom, there's a jump right
Do
there.
you think it's the leading cause of rape?
Boom, there's a cut right there. You know what I mean? It's very... Blah, 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 blah. I just didn't catch it at first, so... So then Ryan says, after this, somebody says, the leading cause of rape is girls not being upfront about what they want. Sad stuff. I wish we could see the full video so we can get, like, the full context, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to. He also recently said that when women friend zone men, that's emotional rape. Just really takes really great takes all around. So happy he's influencing so many young men, base, I guess.
And I think the problem there is a lot of
clip.
the time, guys are not considering what women are thinking. They're just like trying to push for what they want.
Sure.
But then I also said women get away with emotionally raping men because they will friend zone somebody and have no consideration for their feelings, and they push for like the friend stuff, even though the guy wants a relationship.
Yeah, so I also don't like. I think that's disproportionate. You know, when a guy is push, and he pushes past the boundary, we would call that sexual assault. Or excuse me, too hard. And so I understand like the comparison, but I mean, I don't think that friend zoning somebody is sexual assault in any capacity. So I can see why you might be uncomfortable with the take. I wouldn't have personally targeted it and gone like, see, this is ridiculous. But it is a little much, especially since guys do that too to girls. Like girls will sometimes friend zone guys. It's happened to all of us before. And they'll kind of use you for like emotional stuff. You know, maybe you have the interest to date them. I've had this before in my beta phase. And which is why it's helpful for a guy to get a little more, because guys can struggle a little bit with being a little more emotionally intelligent, I think. And girls struggle with being direct. It's a real thing. But guys do this too. I used to do this, right? And this we call fuckboy. You used to maybe find a girl that you weren't necessarily interested in. Maybe she was a little less attractive than you. So I'm sorry, because I know I'm not the most attractive guy in the world. But I'm okay. I'm a handsome guy. I'm 6'4", a little smooth, a little charismatic. And the bar was on the fucking floor. I had a job that paid decent. I had a job. I have a decent voice, which is a big deal. I'm tall. That's it. That's all you really needed. A little. I have like above average intelligence. You know, like that's kind of, you know, the bars is like it's not super high, not super difficult. And so there are girls, you know, you mess around with them. You'd be like, I'm not really looking for anything too serious, but I'm open to it. I'm not proud of these phases. Okay. Young, immature me when I was very inconsiderate. And I think that like men do it to women too. Not all men, just like not all women friend zone men. But I wouldn't call what I did some kind of rape either. So I think that like we keep it on the same level. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that phrasing is disproportionate. I understand what he means, but like, yeah, I mean, it's not something that like by itself I would have like been like, this is it's just since we're on the topic, I figured I'd just bring it up. You know what I mean? So kind of that's what that kind of happened there. So we got Twitter is so weird. So Ryan said that, and Destiny responded, I've got more sway. I think he meant swag. Than self-victimizing losers like you who have zero audience and zero influence. There's a reason young men ditched you virgin fucks years ago for red pill creators. Don't mind me working to undo your cancer. Go back to your cuck corner making video essays. Now, I might be wrong. I haven't been the most long-term Destiny follower. I'm not an avid Destiny follower. But I thought Destiny was the cuck, kind of, like a couple of years ago. I could be wrong. Because I remember, I believe he was on a super progressive arc. I just remember our first conversation. We were just casually chatting. And at one point I was like, yeah, trans women are women. And so are cis women, but they're different. Because they are. And Destiny was like, oh, that's very problematic that you're saying that. Fast forward a year or so, and he gets banned for saying that trans women shouldn't compete in sports, right? Probably a little more than that. But, you know, so I remember like, that's a little bit of a cuck take. So, you know, I don't know. But anyway, I get it. The internet is an interesting place where there are some people who may be too generous to women. Kinda. Where they almost treat them like kids. I don't think Ryan's that person. I think Ryan can very easily be stereotyped as that person. But I don't think that he is. They are, sorry. But I do understand. And I think a really unfortunate part is a lot of people that I met that are like male feminists, like 99% of them have like some kind of like inappropriate intent. Most of them do it as like a shield. You know, I've seen guys who are like fuck boys. They're like, respect women, blah, blah, blah. Like that guy, Modern Warrior. He's like, we should respect women, women's rights. And then he's going out telling women that, you know, he's not dating other people and they should fly out to hang out with him. He was a big influencer. Well, he was an influencer. He should fly out and wants to fuck these girls. He fucks the girls. He tells them that he was single, but he was actually dating somebody. He wasn't wearing a condom, which is not, it's not sexual assault. Unless like it's some form if like you stealth them, like you take it off and they don't know. But he would just be like, oh, I'm single, you know, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, you don't have to use a condom because, you know, it's still inappropriate though, right? It's like it could be violating, you know, because then you make him an STD. It's still wrong. Those are the types of people all the time. It's usually people trying to get close to girls. Ryan's not that person. That's why I like Ryan, because they're very genuine and honest and nice. They're a little bit of a progressive nerd. But they're a very good person. And I've learned that, like, you know, I've at one point, I think, probably kind of typecasted Ryan as like the liberal cook. This says he doesn't even have a beard. Why is his name Mr. Beard? Well, because it's his last name. And I think Destiny says something super based. I just don't really know how to find everything that's said. This is a little frustrating. Let's see. Come on, bro. It's got to be in here. I hate this app. I hate it. Anyway, let's continue. So anyway, Ryan responds to that comment saying, literally all I did was quote you saying that women leading men on is emotional rape. And your response is, I have zero audience. I post less often, but my videos get more views than yours, dude. Whatever. He keeps spreading awful messages about rape. Obviously, Destiny is wrong when it comes to his audience and reach. But what I will say is Destiny has more... I think, and I could be wrong, I think Destiny has more meaningful audience. And I don't say that to dismiss Mr. Beard or Ryan, because I like Ryan a lot. He's a very good person. But there's something to be said about views versus like virality versus strength. It's a quality over quantity almost, right? If let's say Destiny posts once every day for a month and he gets 200,000 views a day, we're gonna say that's a lot of views. I got to do the math now. I have to actually physically take out a calculator because I don't feel like, because I have a brain rot right now. I actually just woke up. Okay, so let's say it's 200,000 views. He posts every day. Let's say 30 days. So that's 6 million views a month, right? And let's say Ryan posts once a month. If he only posts once every 3 months, but let's say he posted once a month and he got 1 million views. Destiny still reached overall more people, even if it's the same even if it's 200,000 people watching the same video every day for a month versus 6 million fresh people once a month, he's still able to have that's a lot. Imagine a single person, or excuse me, 200,000 people watching your videos every day, an hour plus long. That's really heavy audience commitment, and I think it's reasonable to say that those people probably look up to and appreciate Destiny more than the people who are willing to tune in once a month. And this is really once every like 2 or 3 months, but once a month, even if it's a lot of people. It's one of those things where maybe you watch somebody, because Ryan makes very entertaining and good, well thought out videos, and they're willing to tune in when he posts like once a month, but would they be willing to tune in if he posted every day, kind of a thing? And so I don't know if that was like Destiny's point. I think he was just saying that to be like, just like, fuck you, Mr. Beard, or Ryan Beard. Sorry, they changed their name and it takes me a lot. It's more of just like, oh, fuck you, Ryan, like, as a thing. But if you kind of look into it, I will say that Destiny probably has a more meaningful audience, or like a tighter knit. And I'm not saying that to be dismissive, because I enjoy Mr. Beard's videos, or Ryan Beard's videos, like post more. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that's a thing. Then this is like Ryan going on about his audience being 50% men and women. Because my content appeals to a wide demographic. Your audience is 99% men, because women don't want to watch someone make incel arguments about how women are the main cause of rape, and that women leading men on is emotional rape. I wouldn't say it's an inherently bad thing. I don't know what Destiny's audience. Oh, this is a follower of mine. Destiny has a lot more women watching him than that. I like Destiny, although I personally disagree with him on that point. Aren't you doing the same thing as him? Isn't that a bit hypercritical? That's actually like one of my audience people, like, who shows up consistently. This is somebody in my audience who shows up like very consistently to my stream, so it's kind of funny to see that. Apparently he said before there's not audience like 99% men. I don't think it's necessarily like a bad thing to have like a predominant audience. I think I have like 2/3 men, 1/3 women. I don't have a huge audience, so and I used to have a lot more guys. I will say that like I like my audience now. It's more diverse, and I used to have a lot of young edgy kids, young edgy men, because I made TikToks that were based and edgy and awesome. It's not a bad thing that people look up to Destiny. He's a smart guy. You know, he's the most, I think, popular anti-manosphere person out there. And so like, instead of seeing clips of Pearl now, like talking shit about women, I see clips of Destiny shitting on Pearl, and it's a nice change of pace. I appreciate it and respect it. It's because we were going crazy with this manosphere garbage, you know, and it's nice to have somebody make a dent and make an impact like Destiny has. I mean, he really has. You know, I remember I started talking about like the manosphere stuff, like but way before like Destiny started talking about it. And then once he did, it was very efficient. It was like, talk to Sneeko, become his friend to an extent, and then continuously have conversation with him, make him look ridiculous by, you know, countering what he has to say, turning that into going on Fresh and Fit. And he was a little too nice when he first went on Fresh and Fit, which bothered me. It was like he didn't push back hard enough. Then he got into that community. He started having more and more conversations. And then when he did these disagreements, they were more meaningful. And then those became TikTok clips. And then he got into the Pearl. And then this, boom, boom. And then it was like very efficient. And then once Andrew Tate, it came out that he, you know, sex trafficked girls, which is a fact at this point. Okay. Well, if what he's saying is true, it's a fact. But I don't know. You know, if you think Andrew Tate is honest, then then it's true. Then he was in a position to be the number one guy to go to say like, yeah, no, Andrew did this. Here are the facts, and talk to the manosphere. And that's like the tour he's been on. And it's been like it's been a solid project. You have to respect it. You know what I mean? You got to respect it. Respect the technique. You know what I mean? See, I listen to rap. And so I can appreciate that. Of course, it's good to have women as well, have like a little bit of a diverse audience. You know, at least for me personally, and Destiny's a wife, so maybe he feels this too. My wife helps me with my female interpretation of different issues and things. Like we have conversations and stuff, so I'm able to get like a better like perspective on both things. So as long as he's grounded in that capacity, but you know, it's good to have a diversity in audience so that you get like feedback in different ways and you don't get hit with audience capture. But I know Destiny does a lot to try not to have audience capture. Apparently sometimes we'll go as far as to like have a take that he will just like double down on it, even if like it doesn't matter, just to say fuck you to your audience. That's what I've heard from people in his audience say. I don't know if it's true, but it's like kind of funny. It's like, you know. As we move on here, oh, this is the fake it till you make it one. Yeah, this is where he doesn't even have a beard. He went with the strategy, fake it till you make it, and thought if he named himself Mr. Beard, one day he'd become a man. Whoa. So I'm going to probably put this in I should have mentioned this earlier. They had a conversation. I'm going to plug my reaction to their conversation and not the original one. I'm a cuck. But in the description where Mr. Beard and Destiny had a conversation about like trans people, Mr. Beard is non-binary and Destiny doesn't think that that's real. I believe that's what he has said. I'm not trying to be like dismissive. I'm pretty sure that's where he's come to the conclusion now. I think Destiny used to, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And like he used to be like, yeah, because it's like listen, I don't fully understand non-binary people, but Mr. Beard or Ryan is a good person and a genuine person. And my thing with non-binary is that I have friends that identify as this genuinely. I also think that it's not crazy that that if we have an intersex of the body, why couldn't there be an intersex of like the mind? Some kind of phenomenon. There seems to be some cultures with multiple genders. So I think having male, female, and something in between that's how I interpret non-binary. Makes sense to me. Like I can rationalize that. I don't think I have to understand everything. And the concept is more of like gender euphoria instead of dysphoria. I don't think though that somebody that's non-binary without gender dysphoria is an accurate representation of like the trans community, especially people with gender dysphoria that are objectively struggling exponentially more to the point where they need mental health services. They a lot of them need like hormones, therapy, and like other transitioning tools like surgeries, which I respect, and I think that we as a society should absolutely help people out with that. And so like that was part of the conversation. That was kind of the Destiny was brought up there. I agree with that. But it's nothing wrong with being a little nice. You're non-binary, whatever, you know what I mean? God bless. That's what I say. Live and let live. Okay, that's what my conservative mother taught me. Okay, I'm the good kind of conservative. I'm not a conservative, but it's like, hey, God bless. You know what I mean? I don't have to understand every struggle everybody's going through. As long as I can rationalize it and understand it enough to be like, okay, I get it. Now if you want to start identifying as a deer, well, that's obviously ridiculous and not real, and I'll live and die on that point. But non-binary makes sense to me, so I respect it. Okay. Anyway, good one. So if you think that women leading men on is emotional rape, does that mean that you dissing me is verbal rape? I press charges since you just word raped me. Damn. I love you, Ryan. I don't know. Maybe that's a little. I think Ryan's just trying to engage in the camaraderie, the back and forth, shitting on each other. Somebody had this. Let's see, 500K monthly views you versus 10.5 million monthly views Destiny. More views equals better argument, but he's got a point that young men have ditched you. Also, you're hardcore coping about the video's views. Maybe. I don't know. Destiny obviously gets more monthly views than me. He live streams every day, and I post one video essay a month. But our audiences are similar size overall. Like you said, though, it really literally has nothing to do with anything. It's just dumb ad hominem attack because he's grumpy. That part's true. Listen, even Destiny's own audience has to agree with that more than anybody else because he's grumpy as fuck, bro. Of course. Who wouldn't be grumpy streaming 12 hours of video games a day? Listen, real question, Destiny. How often do you shower? And I asked you that because I've been showering less often because I don't have to leave the fucking house. My wife's like, and I start feeling mental health wise, I'm like, oh, I feel shittier. So I've been trying to make sure I shower like every day or every other day. You know what I mean? Especially as I've been going to the gym too, so a little smelly. You know what I mean? It's easy when I used to get up, shower, and go to work every single day. I had a real man's job. Now, you just sit on the computer. It's a little different. So Destiny, maybe that's why you're so grumpy. Okay. Plus, I don't know if Destiny's been doing his workouts anymore. I saw him, he was deadlifting once, and then he stopped. And he doesn't, no offense, he doesn't look like he's been working out. And that's not a criticism on Destiny. I just wonder, it's what the Greek called like arate. And in the Boy Scouts, it's physically strong, mentally awake, morally straight, right? Like working on your mind, your body, and your spirit. It's always it's a really good thing to do. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, his mind is very stimulated from doing all of his debate stuff. I don't know what he's doing for his spirit. You don't have to be religious to do spiritual. You could just have like a spiritual identity in some capacity. But like it's very important. You don't have to like work out, lift weights. So like walking, jogging is really important. Maybe he does do that. I'm just saying. Willard Mackleton. I like Willie Mack. You're proving Destiny's point. You are pearl clutching over the phrase he used instead of actually trying to understand what he means. People like Sneeko and Fresh and Fit have become so influential because they hear young men out. disagree with that statement a little bit. Okay, with the last one. Okay, like I do think that like obviously Mr. Ryan Beard doesn't exactly pull in the audience of young men. The young men don't identify with Ryan, and I do understand that. But I don't think that people gravitate towards Fresh Fit and Sneako because of their influence, because they hear men out. I think it's because they provide young men with a victim complex, and they're edgy as fuck. Young men are edgy as fuck. If you like it, that's it. They are, and it's based, by the way. So if you could appeal to that edginess by being disparaging of different groups of people, you're going to be able to generate an audience. They don't really care about young men. They will basically blame all of men's problems on women, and everybody loves to be a victim. You know, I just saw that South Park episode. All right, everybody's identity is like partially victim. That's what people want nowadays. Everybody wants to be a victim. It's not just like young women on TikTok that want to have ADHD and autism, and they or Tourette's, go blah, 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 and they pretend to actually have it when they don't. It's also young men too, and it's one of those things where like very extreme feminism, TikTok feminism is what I call it, will blame all problems on men. Of course, like a historical male influence of like patriarchy has hurt women, but it's also hurt men too. And the problem is that you'll hear some feminists blame men for today's problems, and it's just like I was just born. Okay, we were all born into the same system. And this is what the manosphere does as well. They blame women for men's problems. They're constantly shitting on women. Now, there's conversations to have about like the different issues that men and women have and the different ways that some men and women societal like standards have a negative impact, of course. But like when your advocacy fundamentally, regardless of what it is, boils down to focusing more on hating the other side rather than building up your own side, it's wrong. Same thing with like BLM. Like the aspects of it that were like, hey, systemic racism exists and issue with black people, sure. When it started becoming white hate and the number one biggest issue in like the BLM community, at least like TikTok BLM we'll call it, was you can't be racist to white people. You lost. You lost because now you're more focused on shitting on white people than building up black people. And that's like a huge problem, right? It's across the board. Sneako, Fresh and Fit, they're very good at that because they don't give particularly robust advice, right? They'll go to the workout, go gym. Of course you should do that. But they don't say what you should do when you get there. Work out. Going to the gym is complicated. Especially we're going to go from a strength training perspective because I've been strength training again. And I used to strength train when I was like in my early 20s. And I used to do strongman. Like I had decent numbers. I had like a 240 log press. I had like a 600-pound dead. Like a 350 front squat. Like I was pretty big. I was gym strong. I wasn't like competition strong, right? I wanted to compete. And then like I didn't. So I wish I did. And so now I'm back into the gym and I'll tell you, it takes a while. Like, you know, and the resources are not out there in the correct way. The first thing you need to do when you get worked out is you need to build your technique. And that could take up to 6 months if you don't have like a coach. And then getting a coach could be difficult because your coach might suck and you don't even know. Because how do you know? You're not educated. And so I always say like, go 5x5 strong lifts. It's by Mark Ripto. 5x5 strong lifts. Just Google it. Buy that book. Read that book. Look into influencers like Alan Thrall for how to properly squat, deadlift, bench, all these other things. You don't even necessarily need a deadlift. That's a little more complicated. It's a really awesome movement, but as an older person, it's not worth like the risk reward. So personally, I just kind of don't do it. You could, you could do like a Romanian deadlifts instead. Just throwing it out there. But either way, it's about learning that technique. High frequency, lower volume routines are really good for when you're first strength building or when you're first like building your base, even if you want to do bodybuilding at some point, because you want to build that foundation. You want to be able to have like progressive overload that's like quick when you're early on so that you could like work on your technique and you could put your numbers up faster because you're earlier to the gym. So you don't need to do you can do more frequency instead of more volume per session, right? So instead of like squatting once a week and doing squats and leg press and leg extensions, leg curls, this, that, you can just squat 3 times a week and then leave it at that low, like high frequency going like 3 times a week, but like lower volume. So it's only like 5 sets of 5. Same thing with like your bench and your overhead press. So look into that and then go from there. A good routine. I see a lot of these people will be like, this is what you should do on your bench day. Do bench press 4 sets of 8 to 12, and then do incline bench 4 sets of 8 to 12, and do dumbbell this, and then they give you like 6 or 7 exercises with like a total of like 4 reps each. So we're talking about like 25 to 30 sets, and you don't need that much. You don't. Especially when you're starting off, you need to. Well, the biggest thing you need to adjust. I remember when I first started going to the gym, the first day I went and I benched too much, and I locked my arms locked up. I'd never been before. I didn't go. I couldn't. I had to call to work. How embarrassing! So much lactic acid. Then I found like 5x5 Strong List, and it was like a really good resource. The good routine needs a lot of things. It needs progressive overload. It needs safety first and foremost. It needs a proper technique, progressive overload. It needs enough stimulation to elicit a response. It needs proper deloading protocols. These are all the things that like a routine needs. And I never see somebody from the manosphere direct people to actual resources on how to work out when you go to the gym. And it like bothers me because it's not really advice that's like super in depth. It's not like a particular like, oh wow, this was really awesome advice. It's very shallow. Like, of course you should go to the gym. Of course you should lose weight. I've been doing that, and I haven't been focusing on losing weight. But my blood sugar has dropped. That's a big focus for me. I'm diabetic, so it's gone from like 240 now it's down to like the 160s. I got more work to do. Right now, I'm focused on like eating better, not necessarily weighing myself. And I think I've been trimming down, or at least maintaining my weight. I'll weigh myself today, guys. Don't worry. And getting my blood sugar under control has been working. And I feel like we don't get people who talk about these things correctly. And I think that ultimately that's what I'm trying to, say. This is actually, I briefed for it's funny how you can scroll on Twitter for 30 seconds and 5 reports of people explaining why it's okay to be racist to shitty and shitty to white people. And then they wonder why white teenagers losers like Sneeko instead of their soy cod. Yeah, that's a good point. But Sneeko last of them, and Red Pillar is making them misogynist again. Oh shit, that's why it's so easy to bring them in. LOL. Yeah, true. Yeah, Nick's got a good point. The online's pretty fucked. Oh, did he respond to this? Oh, I'm absolutely willing to hear young men out. I have said many times that being a true feminist means caring about men's issues as well as women's issues, but hearing men out doesn't mean I need to agree with dumb incel arguments like calling friend zone emotional rape. Again, I don't like that argument. I wouldn't call it like an incel argument. I would just say it's a little out of touch for me. I agree with the ideas that leading people on is bad, and that's why we should educate women on the best way to assert their boundaries. I do not agree with equating emotional manipulation with rape and claiming that women are the main reason the rape happens. I would just say more than anything else is that men do it too. I do it too. We all do it. And I think that like it's good to bring that up for the context. I don't think that young men would necessarily lean on Mr. Beard or Ryan. I keep doing it. And that's not an insult. I think that that's just like people don't necessarily. A lot of people want to find like somebody that we consider a little bit more traditional when it comes to young men. I think that like young people who might be exploring their identities might fall to Mr. Beard. And I think that it could be really productive if Mr. Beard focuses energy. And I don't know, maybe he does on Twitter. Twitter's fucking insane. I don't know why anybody would want to post on there daily, but like I said, you don't make money. The positive impact that Ryan could have for young men is to talk about young men's issues in context. You know what I mean? Sometimes, and I'm not saying that Ryan's doing this here, but some people will do this. They'll only kind of bring up the side that they don't necessarily identify with. And Ryan identifies more with women's issues. And I understand that. And that's not me criticizing him. But they may only bring up like the opposing side when it's like, well, yeah, I don't hate these people, but they'll advocate for the other side. One of those things where might be good to be more active. I'm not saying you have to. Ryan's a reasonable, level-headed person. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be overly critical. All right, this I think is a long chain. So you get to watch me. Okay, we already got through that part. We got this good one. So you think that women lean in on, blah, blah, blah. We already got that one. I don't think that there are legal charges for it, but if you want to go around saying I verbally raped you, be my guest. Okay. I thought it was going to be more. So you agree with me that the way you've been throwing around the term rape to mean anytime someone does something you don't like probably devalues the actual meaning of the word. Glad we're on the same page. This is a good point. I'm just going to say it. Like, this is a good point. I think it's a little disproportionate to say something is like emotional rape. I also don't know the rest of the conversation. So like maybe he said something in context. Get him again, Ryan. Wow, incredible. But I do agree with this. I think it's a bit disproportionate. And I think that the problem is that what it does when a young man hears that, when you call it emotional rape, is I think that it triggers in their head that like it could be to an extent as serious as actual sexual assault. And it's not. Okay, getting a friend zone is not the same as getting sexually assaulted. And there's a lot of young people who might be like, oh yeah, I was emotionally, and like we just use, oh fuck, man. And I know Destiny's owns this, like everything is fucking grooming and rape. People are obsessed with it. Anytime there's an interaction, people go to the most disproportionate, bad faith interpretation of any event ever, all the time, always, right? And everybody does it. What like people are calling Jennifer Lawrence's new movie something, I forgot what it's called. The fucking suck my balls. I forgot. It's grooming, because in that movie she's 32 and she dates like a 19-year-old, and like the parents pay them because the 19-year-old is like a young guy who's very like lonerish, and they're like, hey, you should go try to sleep with my son, and like she tries to like date him and stuff, and it's like a comedy. It's not that deep. And all grooming, blah, 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 blah. Even if it's inappropriate, it's not fucking grooming, bro. Like, relax. You know, I feel like this contributes to it. And you know, I know Destiny's supposed to be a little edgy, but I think that there are some young men who might actually eat it up a little too much. You know, but nobody's perfect though. You can't perfectly express everything perfectly all the time. You know, so I think that's something to keep in mind with as well. So much talking. So much. All right, so then Destiny responds to the 50-50 argument. Make incel arguments from these obese virgin on Twitter. From the obese virgin on Twitter. Thanks for the positive feedback, Chief. Please guide me on my better approaches on dating and hookups. I'm sure you've got the experience to comment. Damn. That's just mean. That's just mean, guys. This is why Twitter's ridiculous. That's just, I feel like it's unnecessary. But I mean, I don't think that the incel is that. Would you compare calling somebody an incel to saying that they're an obese virgin on Twitter? I feel like that one's meaner. But this is the whole meanness of Twitter, bro. It's just a mean place. It's just so crazy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I know that when Ryan tries to advocate for people, oftentimes people will focus on that they aren't like a real man. This is what this is. Like, you're not enough of a man. You don't fuck enough girls, and you're fat. Right. See, I fucked plenty of girls. Boom. Not that many, but only like 20, but whatever. Like in the conversation about like kissing, I remember of like asking before you kiss somebody. And Mr. Beard got like dumpstered, like not dumpstered, but like the person disagrees, like, you don't even fuck girls, you don't know shit, blah, 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 blah. Because it is nerdy to ask a girl if you want to kiss, but that's because only nerds do that. I think that as like a man, it's not a bad idea to get that in your head. You don't have to be like, excuse me, can I kiss you? But like, you could feel the vibe. You could rub up on a girl's leg when you're one-on-one, feel it out and be like, can I steal a kiss from you? You know what I mean? You'll lean in. Fart. When you lean in, you fart. Yeah, it's gonna get, you know, I know that there's a lot on a guy, because they're kind of in charge of the courting ritual. So I get it, you know, but it's a good idea. You know, it's a good idea to help women feel comfortable. It's also a good idea for you as a man to keep yourself safe in this fucking crazy time of trying to make sure that like you got it down pat. You know what I mean? If you're chatting with a girl on a date and maybe you want to drop some lines of like, hey, listen, if we ever do anything and you're uncomfortable, you could just say no and I'll stop. Like a little thing like that. And then you've set the stage. If you could say that meaningfully in a way that it's like, yeah, okay, cool. Then when you're in the date in the car and you ask for, you'd be like, oh, can I still kiss? Or maybe you could just go for it. And if she doesn't want it, you've already said like, oh, it's okay to say no. And you're like, okay, you know, a little thing somewhere, you know, because you are, as a man, usually you're going to be physically stronger. You're going to have a little, you know, in that moment, she might feel a little intimidated. And I want to be very clear. Just because you feel intimidated, girls, doesn't mean that you shouldn't speak up. Okay, we do have a problem with men needing to be able to read women better and be more emotionally intelligent. But also we have a problem with women not expressing their boundaries clear enough. And nowadays on the internet, sexual assault is when a woman is uncomfortable. And it's like, you need to state a boundary. You know, if you're saying, I don't want to do this, and he keeps pushing and does it, I understand why you would like let it happen, because you know, you're afraid for your safety, but you've done not enough. But like, if you're not even willing to be like, I don't want to do this, and sometimes you have to hold that boundary a little firmer, unfortunately, then like, you know, I would say you might want to try to, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try to advocate for yourself. If you can't advocate enough for yourself to be like, hey, I don't want this, then like maybe you shouldn't date. I don't know. Like, I understand that. And as a man, if you can't take no for an answer, you shouldn't be dating either. Unfortunately, like the person that's required or more responsible for their own safety is a woman, which just sucks because she can't throw hands like a guy, right? It's really unfortunate because in the same way that for men, there's more pressure to like engage in the interaction correctly, there's more pressure for the woman to defend herself in that situation. And it's just like one of those things where I think both of these struggles are valid and they both suck. And we both need to talk about them, but we don't need to compare which one is harder. I personally would think that the woman's position's a little harder. I would rather be the guy who struggles to guide through a situation than the girl who might have to submit to sexual things because I don't want to get hurt. But like, that's not the focus. It doesn't matter who has it harder. What matters is that we should represent both of these issues equally or properly, right? Because those are real things. So yeah, moving on. I love how, let's see what we got here. Let's see. Okay, so then Ryan responded to that comment about him being obese. I've been happily committed relationship for 6 years. Cringe. Am I right, guys? I am happily married. You know, but come on. It is kind of, is it, fellas, is it gay to be in love? I don't know. It might be. It might be kind of gay. I don't need to have the type of hookup experience you do because I don't let other dudes bang my girlfriend. Okay, it's a little funny. Listen, they've been throwing bangers at each other. That was kind of funny. Destiny was called an obese virgin, which I thought was a little mean, but I'm not gonna morally chastise them. But if they're gonna play the game, you know what I mean? You might as well turn into a shitstorm. Also, I love how you said before that you're against fat shaming. Looks like that was a fucking lie. I will say that I understand Ryan's point. Like, you know, he shouldn't be calling somebody an obese virgin on the internet if he's against fat shaming. But you did stoop to Destiny's level by cuck shaming, okay? I'm kind of being a little unironic, right? So, like, now we're just throwing shit at each other. So you can't really make that moral point. I'm just saying, okay? All right? By the way, I don't think Destiny... he's fine with the interaction. People like Sneeko who don't want to be cucked, that allow themselves to be cucked. That you know, set better boundaries, young man. Am I right? Set better boundaries. I need new glasses. I've had these things since I was like 20. Poverty much? Ew, you're poor. Ew. I love how Destiny pretends to be a principled individual who's against fat shaming and against anti-white slurs. LOL. That is until you make him grumpy and he's totally fine with fat shaming. What a fucking rat. Damn. Well, I'm against anti-white slurs as well. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but it doesn't help the societal conversation. You know, it's really interesting the way that we perceive interactions. Let me give you like a for instance, like this is one of those things where like focusing on like, I think it's a positive thing to be like, yo, you could be racist to white people, like chill the fuck out. I don't think it's a positive thing for people to advocate for black people by saying you can be racist to white people, you can't be racist to white people. It's not productive because the thing is that even by your own definition, you can still be prejudiced to white people. You just don't think you can be racist. So it's still wrong. So why is this the focus? You know, it's interesting, the focus of some, I would say, privileged progressives, regardless of whether they're black, white. I've seen more of it from white people saying that you can't be racist to white people, which kind of just feels to me like they're trying to say, I'm one of the good ones, guys. The thing is that when it comes to like advocacy on any group, but specifically in this instance, that's a morally virtuous win. What does winning the cultural online argument of you can't be racist to white people, what does that do for the fucking black kid that grew up and didn't get any like education? Like his teacher's underpaid and overworked and she or he doesn't give a shit about work anymore. And like the kid's parents are working 2 fucking jobs and are barely home, and maybe like they don't have a dad, and like, and I don't have a dad. Okay, relax. And you know, or maybe they're like completely beholden to the welfare system, or you know, how does that help that kid? You know, how does that help that kid? I don't see it. It doesn't help anybody at all. It helps like privileged progressives feel like they're morally virtuous. It's a virtuous win that doesn't help. It kind of reminds me of, I had this conversation with this guy a while ago about banning the Confederate flag. And my point here was like, hey, you know, I think the Confederate flag is shit, but I don't think it's productive to ban it. Because at the end of the day, this is something that I feel is if we ban the flag, it's going to make like privileged progressives feel like they've won. But what does it really do? The black people that are around the most like white people with that flag, which I do think that obviously there is those people are probably a little disproportionately racist. You know, you should only be proportionally racist. But they're a little more racist than other people that have the Confederate flag. I'm sure there's some that aren't. They just think it's Southern pride. But there are people who are racist. I've seen more racists flying that flag than, you know, flying other ones. I'll just say, okay. My point is banning that flag would upset those racist people. And who's the most vulnerable to those racists? black people in the area that are poor. And so I'm like, I don't think it helps practically because it's just going to cause more violence on the black people because they're going to blame black people for it. And it doesn't help like overall because it doesn't do anything for them, right? It just is a morally virtuous win. You know, and I've even seen some black people say that, like, you know who to stay away from if they're flying that flag. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's like a reverse bat signal. And so it's one of those things where I try, and I don't always do, but I try to look at like what is actually practically impactful. And I feel like I think that it's good to say that, like, yeah, you can be hateful to white people because then we don't get off track of the messaging. But saying that, like, LOL, just be, you can't be racist, haha, fuck white people, that doesn't help. That just doesn't help. Like, anti-whiteness, unfortunately, is also going to be anti-blackness. I just want you, like, that's how fucked black people are. Okay, if they try to reverse the oppression, they're just going to end up being repressed more. It's going to cause people to tune out. You know, I don't think it's fair. You know what I mean? I like a good mayonnaise joke, but that's just where we are. Okay. Anyway, one thing you guys might be picking up on right now is there seems to be a lot of animosity between Ryan Beard and Destiny. Crazy. It's crazy. I wonder why. Okay. Yeah, I changed. This is in response to the committed comment that Ryan said from Destiny. Yeah, I changed my mind because interacting with cretins like you made me realize bullying was an important. See, I was right. He used to be a liberal cuck. Bullying was an important way to keep dipshits like you from thinking they had anything valuable to say ever. I wonder if that's true. You know, one of the things that gets me about Destiny a little bit is I remember listening to like a conversation, like his alt account or something, some other account, where he talked to some guy about Kyle Rittenhouse, like whatever. And the kid made a comment, and Destiny mentioned that he is like, his brand right now is to be like a liberal pick-me. And I wonder how much of what he's saying is just to maintain the brand so that he could be like that liberal pick-me that gets into the manosphere spaces and has like the overall positive conversation. Where saying kind of silly things like bullying was important is maybe just like an aesthetic choice to get into the spaces where like edgy LOL young men are like, yeah, I agree with that, and they're more open to listening to Destiny. So I can get it, but I mean, like, you know, I would just say fundamentally it's not important. This interaction is kind of funny, I will say, back and forth. They're shitting on each other a little bit, but it's just not. I just like wonder, you know, I wonder. But you know, here's the thing: we're all flawed, guys. It's okay if we're not perfect. I like Destiny overall. You know what I mean? But some of those things, it's interesting. It's like the same thing with like, I'm not even gonna, okay, like same thing with using the R word. I'm not gonna bring it up too much. I know you guys are annoyed when I advocate against the usage of that. Same thing with that. Like, are you doing that so that like the young edgy guys are like, yeah, this guy's fucking based? You know what I mean? Maybe. I mean, it's working, so I guess I can't. I guess it's working. Oh, and then Ryan responded, yeah. Yawn face. Whoa. I love seeing you change your values based on who makes you angry. Very principled. Try to come up with some better comebacks than your fat virgin, LOL. That might have worked in gaming lobbies in 2005. Hey, it worked in 2006 too. Okay. But most of us have progressed past that immature mindset. Damn, dude, he's got him. Okay. Mr. Beard, if a young man came to you and he wanted to become attractive and have sex with lots of women, what advice would you give him? I would say that that's like a bad, you shouldn't want those things. Well, you should want to be attractive. All right. And I did like fucking a lot of girls back in the day, so I'm not going to lie. But I think this is what I would say. I say, listen, just go to the gym, bro. Work out. No, I would give you the resources I gave you before about going to the gym. I'm obviously fat, but like, let's say they asked me. And then I would say is this. I'd say, listen, I had my So in Your Wild Oats days. It was a lot of fun. Okay? Not gonna lie. Do your best to be upfront and honest when you talk to these girls and try not to manipulate them. I could have done better. You know, just, you know, it's not like this act of like, oh, I'm gonna, but like when you tell these girls like, hey, listen, I'm not looking for anything super serious, and then go on like a date with them. I'd say you don't have to have sex just because you're dating around. I think there's nothing wrong with dating 2 or 3 people at once. But maybe you don't have sex with them all. And if you're going to, wear a fucking condom, okay? Be upfront about your desires. You're like, hey, I'm not committed. I'm going to date other people too. Wear that condom because, like, not wearing the condom, wear the condom. It's a good thing. I think that there are times where even and I hate to admit this, where I probably pressured girls into not wearing condoms, and I hate myself for it. When you get older, you look back at like interactions, you go, damn, I wish I was like more considerate. You know, I never forced it or took it off. But I remember having conversations where girls like, oh, can you wear it? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really feel like that. I don't really want to wear it. And, you know, like, yeah, she could have been more assertive, but then also me as a man, I could also be less pushy, you know, and just be a little more respectful. And I think that's a good thing, because you will feel bad about it when you get older. That's the one thing I'm going to tell you. Even if you want to be selfish, you're going to feel bad about it. You're going to feel like a piece of shit. Okay. You know, when you look back, you're going to realize that you weren't the best guy sometimes. And it doesn't mean I never did anything like illegal or anything like that. But like, there are times where I wish I was more considerate. So, you know, Wendler 531, 5x5 strong list, best way to start. Get to the gym, you know, focus on your workouts and shit. And just be more upfront with these girls. And, you know, yeah, that's a good thing. And I will say, when you go through like your developmental years, like your 20s, and you know, focusing too much on fucking girls, it's gonna put you in a bad mindset when you get older. I'm 33. No, I'm not. I'm gonna be 33 in like 10 days. I'm 32, and I'll say that like I used to be in a poly in an open relationship, like, you know, over the past like 8-9 years, and changing to a monogamous one has been tough. It's just difficult. It's just not what I've done, and so like I get like urges to talk to other people, and my wife and I have slowly, like, you know, we cut it down to being monogamous. It's 1000% worth it, because I love my wife. She's an incredible woman who's made me a better person and made me happier. I'm happier. I don't know how else to say it. Like, that's a huge. I've never been happy before. It's so sad, right? I've never actually been happy before I met my wife, and like as I've been with her, I've been happier and happier and feeling more stable. It's weird to say, but sometimes you don't even realize how unhappy you are until you find something that makes you happy. And it's a challenge, man. And you don't want to like go through that challenge, because I think that as you get older, you're going to want to commit, and sometimes it could be harder. And, you know, it's a struggle you'll have to put up with. And that's why I've been trying to reduce my porn consumption and stuff like that, because I think it kind of is toxic to the brain, and trying to have like a better outlook on life. But just be warned about it. You know, sow your wild oats, young man, but be honest about it, and don't get too wrapped up into it, because as you get older, you know, if you want to find a good woman, you have to be a good man, and a good man is loyal to their woman. You know, and a good woman, frankly, and like as far as like open relationship with Destiny, like that's an outlet. Like that, if that works for you, God bless. But that usually doesn't work for you. So if you're gonna want to find a good woman, you're gonna have to be committed to just them. Some good women might be okay with you fucking other girls, but at the end of the day, unless you're doing an equal relationship like Destiny does, I don't think that as a man you're ever going to respect a woman who doesn't maintain equal boundaries with you. You might think it's awesome, it's like, yeah, I get to fuck around, but she doesn't. You're going to think it's awesome that you're like a real man and you're in control, but you're not going to fully respect that person because you have a massive double standard on how your relationship works. So I wonder, does Ryan Beard respond to this? Oh, sorry. It's a lot of little things. Working on hygiene, fitness, style, comedic ability, etc. But the main thing is just get practice talking to women, because the main thing women are attracted to is somebody who is charismatic and approachable, and that's something that takes time, patience. Yeah, I guess, or practice. Yeah, it's not bad advice. It's pretty vague, just like the manosphere stuff, but it's also on Twitter. So make a video, Ryan. Make a Ryan Beard Speaks video, page. Talk about it, okay? Also, don't wear deodorant, because women like a man's natural muskrat. Some women actually do, okay? My wife does. But you still need to shower and use body wash, okay? So then Destiny says, doesn't seem like you've progressed much past your obesity. Okay. All right. I think that it's more just shit throwing. I wonder if Destiny, I don't think he actually thinks that bullying is based. I think it's more of just shit throwing from what I know about Destiny. It's like, you shouldn't bully people, but now to him, it's like a one-on-one. Like, you're going to call me a fucking rapist, I'm going to call you a fat, obese virgin, blah, 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 type of a thing. Anyway, you're literally a fat virgin, not a base gamer like me. Did I mention that you're obese? Ha, based, right, chat? I'm so based. Also, chat, now let's talk about how women need to stop emotionally raping men. Wow. I mean, it is a nice picture of Steven. I do wonder why he flares his nostrils, though. You know, I could do it, too. It's interesting to me. See? It's one of my talents. That's how I get girls to fuck me. Also, girls are really attracted to all the action figures in the back. Okay? I only started bringing the nerd out once I got married. That women will stay away. Stay away from me, cuck. I honestly did not have all this shit in my room when I was still dating girls. Hey, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But now I'm a real man. I'm a real man, okay? I don't give a fuck what you think. What is this? Oh, okay. Sorry. Anyway, it's a nice picture. I wonder how old this is. He doesn't have the blue hair. Let's see. What does this say? This is weirdly controlling, polyphobic, and insecure in a single tweet. Wow, this is like, what an epic troll. Ben Shapiro's biceps. Okay. I wouldn't have even responded to that because it's just like an obvious troll. I don't let men bang my girlfriend, and my girlfriend doesn't let women bang me. That's not controlling. That's how monogamy works. Normally, I wouldn't make fun of something for being poly, but if you call me monogamous people virgins, I'm going to roast you back. Boom. Well, I don't think he was calling monogamous people virgins. I think he was just calling Ryan a virgin for the way they interact. I don't think it was like a thing to disparage monogamous people, just specifically Ryan. Then Dove Body Wash apparently got in on it. Stop giving fat suit awards. We want better representation in Hollywood. Oh, okay. Sure. What does that mean? I guess this person got so bullied by Dove, they disappeared. What is a fat suit award? What? I don't know what that means. Okay. I mean, frankly, I don't think that there's any problem with wearing a fat suit. Actually, to be honest with you, I think it's better. I think that like fat people are obviously going to understand. I think obviously fat people are going to understand being fat better than a skinny person. So Tyra Banks going into a fat suit is obviously dumb because she doesn't know dick about shit when it comes to like a struggles of a fat person. But at the same time, I don't think that people should have to go through drastic body modifications and like weight regain or even loss for roles because that could destroy their body. And so like I would say use fat suits. You know, just have somebody who understands what it's like to be fat and like if that matters in the role. If it's just some comedy role, like who gives a shit? I'm like, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like when Ryan Reynolds wore like a fat suit for like one video he did or movie he did, and then like he took it off. And same thing with The Rock when he was like fat for that one movie. You know, it was better that they use CGI and stuff because you shouldn't like it's a crazy transformation. They kill your fucking body, whether it's getting too fat or too skinny or it's crazy. Even getting too fit too fast because they're on steroids and they're going through these crazy routines. It's like, you know, that's why I like the movie 300. It was all CGI. Anyway. The entire field of prosthetic makeup is devoted to changing how people's bodies look. I agree that fat suits are often used to make fun of fat people, but fat suits are not the problem. The problem is intention behind the fat suit. Okay, I don't even know why I read that one. I was being facetious about them, that being part of the Destiny conversation. Here's an old guy. Not so erudite weighed in. Oh, Jesus, I wish women would just not. You know, like what makes you feel like you can talk? You know, nobody gave you permission. I'm just busting chops. Okay, so she said, another great example of why most male feminists are LARPing and bad for the movement. I think that is true, but I don't think Ryan's an example of that. Ryan uses feminists to look moral. Being a true feminist, stop using our movement to make yourself feel good. I just unequivocally disagree. There's nothing from Ryan that is like a virtue signal. This is truly, Ryan is a true fat, obese, neckbeard virgin. Okay? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joshing. He really means what he said, or they really mean what they say. Sorry. It's genuine. There are like I said before, a lot of male feminists are wolves in sheep's clothing. Wool and what was I gonna say? So the real funny thing is that you think that feminism grants you morality. Yeah, that's what I think, random dweeb who assumed everything about myself. Why do you guys engage on Twitter? You don't get paid for it. I don't get it. I feel like people need to set better boundaries on their content. Twitter is dumb. Just stop using Twitter. You know, if you have something important to say, take it to fucking YouTube or something. Long form, you'll make money, and you can create that boundary of like, this is my paid content that I make, instead of just constantly engaging on Twitter, especially in back and forths all day. It's got to be like the worst addiction ever. Okay, you're better off being fucking morbidly obese and being addicted to food than you are being addicted to fucking Twitter. Because at least eating like a fat fuck makes you feel good a little bit right in that moment, even if it kills you. This is just emotional destruction. I will tell you that I've been like significantly happier since I stopped using Twitter. It's crazy. The only time I think I might use Twitter again is if I decide to pay somebody to do clips for me. I might like have a clips Twitter and like actually actively use that. But outside of that, ain't no thing, brother. Anyway, Ryan responds with, I don't use feminism I don't use feminism to look moral. Feminism is one of my genuine ideological frameworks because I think the patriarchy is harmful. Do you have any evidence to back up your claim that I'm not a genuine feminist? Or do you just want to keep virtue signaling to centrists? Probably, well, kind of true, because I don't think Erudite has like an actual foundation for this. I think that she's just trying to jump in on the Destiny drama and defend Destiny because, you know, she's an orbiter. And by the way, I'm not criticizing orbiters, okay? But I will say one of the reasons why I've been very reclusive and trying not to orbit anybody, being like an active stance, is because I just don't, you know, I don't know. There's something that'll like warp your mind when you orbit too much around somebody, you know? I like to be to myself. That doesn't mean I don't want to chat with people, but I have to orbit. It's hard because I'm so fat, but things orbit around me. Okay. What the hell is this? The whale portrays obesity as a terrible and debilitating disease caused by poor life choices. Basically a wake-up call. Fat people on Twitter. I want to watch this because it looks so good. I love Brandon Fraser. I hope I'm saying his name right. Brendan Fraser? I don't know. The show Frasier was good too. Fat people on Twitter ignore it and call it fatphobic LMAO. I wonder if that's true. I have to watch it. The film is not about poor life choices makes people obese. It's about how trauma and mistreatment and poor mental health lead people to developing binging disorders. The film is trying to get you to humanize and empathize with fat people. No one understands this movie. I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. They have a movie where there's like, we're gonna watch. My wife and I are gonna go see it tomorrow. It's got like people with like Down syndrome in it. And like there's a big part of it, and you know it was so cute. It's so I'm such a nerd now. I'm so nerd. My wife works with people with intellectual developmental disabilities, a lot of people with Down syndrome, and she tells some of the people that she works with, she's like, hey, you know, they have a movie where there's like a lot of people with Down syndrome, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't know. I think it's so gay. Like, sorry, I shouldn't be using that word as like a pejorative. It's so nerdy, or like it's so cringe of me to be like, that's really cool, but like that's so cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, imagine. It's nice to be nice, and sometimes, you know, love is a beautiful thing, and being nice is part of love, and it's just nice to be nice, and I think it's just a cute thing. Then we got, these are the two men behind how to treat women discussion. I'm sorry, it's a little funny, even if it's fucked up, because Sneeko is a massive, like, misogynistic, I never say that word, just like a sexist piece of shit, extreme, like, unintelligent fuck. And what people think of Miss Ryan is that, like, on the opposite direction, like a total cuck. And so it's funny when you look at it like that, but I know Ryan's not that person, you know? I do know Sneeko is that person, though. Pick your position, the fatty or the cuties defender. Oh! Damn. I prefer to be a fat cuties defender. Just kidding. In Sneeko's defense, I don't think that he was like actually defending cuties in an active way where he liked the movie. I think that he heard somebody have a take about cuties that sounded intelligent and was different from the status quo, and his desperation to be different aligned with that perspective, and he just regurgitated it without actually understanding what the fuck he was talking about. Because Sneeko is a shell of a person with no personality and nothing going on in there, and like no happiness, no ability to build friendships or relationships. And I think as he spirals out of control, he'll find that if he loses his social media career, he will lose all of his friends, because his only friends that he has left are people like Fresh and Fit and Andrew Tate. And I think that as he becomes less and less relevant, they're going to care about him less and less. They're going to use him or put him on less and less. And that's the sad part of being internet famous. And I'm happy that I didn't hit it till I was like 29. Because if I lost my job, this job tomorrow, I would just go back and get a real job, and my wife and I would be perfectly fine and happy. You know, that's the dangers of being a social media person. You really can't find out if you truly have friends or not. It's difficult. And my wife actually is like said, like, you know, one of the things that I love about you is I know that if you, like, something happened on social media, you would just get a job. Like, of course, you know, because that's what she values. She just values me contributing, and I'd be able to get a decent job too, because like I have like a work history, like 11 years, part of it which of being like a manager, and like I could get a decent job. I can get my CDL. The CDL jobs pay well out here. You know, like we would be happy. And let's see. I don't even know what I said that's so crazy about how to treat women. I think you should treat them like human beings, I guess. That disagree. Just be normal around them. Okay. What is this? What do we got this whole thing here? I mean, Destiny was definitely misrepresented, I imagine, in the original video, but realistically, rather than point out that misconception. He just called him obese 10 times. That is kind of true. Maybe I'm wrong and I just missed it, but I didn't see anywhere that Destiny said that it was fake on Twitter. Maybe I missed it. It's probably very possible. So, but he does seem to be more interested in shitting on Mr. Beard than defending his own self. No, fuck you. I'm not going to play babysitter and feel like I need to correct people who think I'm running cover for rapist. I have enough credit by now that any rational thinking human, especially another content creator, should know better by now than to see a clip like that. Listen, I have to say, because I fell for it. I read it at first. So, and you're going to probably see that in this video. Maybe. So, like, I get what he's saying. But at the same time, I think that if you limited your response, you don't have to do this, I'm just saying, to... This clip is very out of context. There's a full conversation that I can't get access to because the person apparently deleted it. I'm in talks with them in private to remove it. And you just left it at that. That might have been a little more productive overall. I understand what he's saying, but at the end of the day, people are still going to misinterpret it unintentionally. I did unintentionally. I didn't make a whole video about it. Like, oh my God, this is, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. What are you going to do? I never claimed you're running cover for rapists. I claim that you saying women leading men on as emotional rape downplays the severity of actual rape. And that part is true. And your response is call me fat. That's true. And you can keep ignoring my point and calling me fat as much as you want to, but most people see how weak these responses are. Dang. Sure, I guess. You're hopping onto the bandwagon, people accusing me of being a rape apologist because you're still upset that I bullied you off the internet a year ago. Don't play stupid. You know exactly what you're doing. That part might be kind of true. I don't think that, like, because this suggests, like, that Mr. Beard, fucking Jesus, I can't get it right. Ryan doesn't like Destiny, and Destiny doesn't like Ryan. Fair enough, Not everybody mixes very well. Okay. Not everybody can be a smooth, charming, charismatic Papa. Okay. But I don't think that there's like this intentionality to go after Destiny in a way of like, oh, let me ride the bandwagon. I think it's more of like, I don't like Destiny and I'm having bad faith interpretations of everything that he does. You know what I mean? Like, so neither of those are good things to do. But one is like, oh, I know this is fake, but I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and try to make him look like a rape apologist, versus like, oh, I hate Destiny. And you know what? I think that he would say this. And he's had... Sometimes Destiny can express himself poorly. And I think that there was one time where a lot of people got upset with him because he expressed himself poorly when it came to a sexual assault thing. I'll try to link that in my description too. So, to some people's credit, I can understand it. I defended that last time. Not that it was very valuable. I'm not a huge content creator, but like, you get my point. But yeah, okay. This back and forth is going nowhere. Oh, wait. There's a difference between me thinking you have some bad takes on rape and thinking you're a full-on rape apologist. And maybe the fact that people have to worry about being bullied off the internet when they disagree with you shows negativity on your character. That part's actually a fair point, because I don't know if Ryan actually got bullied off the internet. Well, I don't think that Ryan actually got bullied off the internet. It might have had like a negative impact on their mental health. So I get that part. And like, if your audience is going to, and I don't know if they did this, but if your audience actually did bully the shit out of Mr. Beard, Ryan Beard, sorry, I can't do it, to the point where they actually stopped posting, and that was the reason why. Like, you should reflect and be like, okay, when I talk to somebody, I don't want them to, that shouldn't be a goal, but whatever. No. Anyway, this is back and forth. It's going nowhere. You've clearly decided that you're refusing to respond to my criticism on your emotional rape take, so you can fuck off. I think that it would have been more productive to have this conversation in person. I will say well, not in person, on whatever. I will say that, like, Mr. Beard asserting what he did about the emotional rape part, he didn't say, I know this is an out of context clip, but he, you know what I mean? And then put his clip in there. He just like, yeah, look at what he said about this. So either he agreed, he does seem to, or maybe he fell for it too. Hey, fuck. Yeah. Maybe Ryan fell for it too, like I did initially. And that's, again, one of the things about, like, one of the coolest things is like, I make content on stream. Excuse me. And then after that, I wait a day before to post my stuff. And I think that in this case, it gives me an opportunity to chill the fuck out. Okay. So now I think that there's like a really long Destiny thread here. I'm going to read the whole thing. Your criticism lacks substance. It starts and stops with, this makes me feel bad and uncomfortable, and I'm going to dogmatically virtue signal so people know I'm one of the good guys. I don't think that that's what Ryan... Again, I think Ryan actually fell for it like I did. Excuse me. So, initially, and kind of jumped on it. And that's, obviously not good. The point of the original take wasn't to say raping someone is bad as friend zoning. Yeah, maybe it was out of context. Like, it wasn't enough context in there. If you just clip that by itself, it could be bad, but maybe there was more there. But like I said, at least in the way that clip came off, it does come off. I could see some people reading it like that. I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay, friend zoning somebody. Sorry. The original point of the video wasn't to say raping somebody is as bad as friend zoning someone to the point. The point of the take was to show that in almost all toxic interactions, it seems as though men are expected to be the arbiters of both their and women's feelings. That's fair. If a situation exists where a guy is getting friend zoned or led on by a girl, people will make fun of them. True. Fun of the man for not understanding the situation better. They'll say he should have known she only viewed him as a friend. He shouldn't have made any assumptions, and he was actually acting in the wrong and in a disgusting manner by assuming anything. That's actually interesting. That's fair. Because you want to know what? I did talk about how men play women. Women play men for their feelings. That's what friend zoning is. Men play women for their feelings. That's what being a fuckboy is, right? But we don't call it them. We call it friend zoning, which is like a negative on the man, and then we call it a fuckboy, which is a negative on the man. You know what I mean? We don't call it like you're being a bitch or something. We need a word for it instead of like fuckboy. I don't know. What would you call it? Cuck girl? I don't even know. So that's one thing. But additionally, this is the kind of like societal rhetoric that makes fuckboys. Okay? Because listen, I've been in my beta fucking phase before where like I really wanted to like date a girl at first, and I'm like, I want to be a nice guy, and then I would get led on, and then it creates like a callousness in you, and you're like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care anymore. And then like you build confidence and you start slanging wiener, and you start just fucking running through girls and not giving a shit anymore. And you're like, well, because these girls would hurt me. And some of them would. I remember there was one girl I dated, and like that was when I was a cuck. There was a point, I'm going to be open about this, where like my confidence was so bad from my first relationship that my penis wouldn't get hard to have sex. I could get blown, but I couldn't have sex. Not proud of that moment. Okay, my first relationship was rough. We were both not good people in different ways. So I'm not saying that like this person was horrible. Shit happens. But like my emotional confidence or my sexual confidence was destroyed, and I dated the girl after that, and I couldn't like bang her. So I remember driving or helping her drive. We were dating, and she went back to school upstate or something. I don't even remember. No, I don't remember. It was up my ass. I don't fucking know. It was a bit of a drive. So I helped her. Drove up there. I helped her move in. She told me that like, yeah, we could be boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, or something like that. And then when I got there, I was under the impression we were going to maintain boyfriend and girlfriend. And we like slept. I slept there for like one night. And then after like in the middle, she's like, yeah, you should probably leave because I think that we should take a break. I was like, damn. And I was sad on the whole way home. And then I couldn't figure out how to go through the right lane when I was paying a toll. And I got a fucking ticket. So, add insult to injury. But they waived the ticket fee. They just made me pay the Easy Pass in the mail. Now they just send them in the mail. That's what they always should have done. But then I built up my confidence, and by the time she got back from school, we dated again, and like she fell in love with me because I wasn't as much of like a beta, right? And then I was like, "Fuck this bitch," and it's revenge time. No, I was like, "Okay, fuck her. I don't care about her." And then I probably took those feelings and maybe whatever. Although I was generally pretty upfront that I didn't want to be in a relationship with a lot of people, but that's what creates fuckboys, though. You know what I mean? Is women taking advantage of men and not being explicit about their boundaries. As a guy, maybe there were a bunch of signs that I missed that she didn't want to date me, but like she wasn't upfront about it, so I didn't know. And it's like that kind of behavior creates fuckboys, if you think about it. But in both scenarios, like we said, it's like if you get friend zoned, you're friend zoned. You're a loser. If as a guy, if you're a guy that fucks around with girls, you're a fuckboy. Right? The girl's always like a perpetual fucking victim in our society. And that is because of a standard that men are expected to kind of dominate situations, And I'm not saying we necessarily have to change that, but I think it'd be good to we should shame women who friend zone men more. That's my point. It's not rape, but it's bad. There is zero accountability for women in this interaction. To check in on the feelings of the guy, or to ensure that she's not being manipulative or unfair to somebody who might, or who obviously has a crush or romantic interest on her, that she has no intention of reciprocating. That's actually true. We do infantilize women in our society a lot. My wife gets fucking pissed when we talk about this. Like, she gets really angry when people like diminish it. Like, for instance, Ethan and H3, he had this take after the Brandon Buckingham thing where he's like, men with like money and power shouldn't sleep with women or shouldn't engage in hookup culture. Now, I absolutely think that if you have like a significant power dynamic or any power dynamic, you should be careful of it, right? That's why I say, like, as a man, try to create the comfortable space. As a woman, also do the same thing. Don't friend zone guys, you fucking piece of shit, okay? And so if you're rich, make sure you don't leverage that. You know what I mean? There's a difference between saying like, oh, I have a lot of money. You know, let's say like I have a lot of money. I'll do this for you or this for you if you fuck me. In more of like an active sense, like that's fine if whatever you want to buy jewelry for somebody or whatever, but it's more like if you're somebody that's like, oh, I'll make you a content creator if you fuck me, or I'll give you this job if you fuck me. That's like really wrong, right? But you can still engage in casual sex, because check it out, some women like to fuck famous rich guys. They just do. And when you say that they should be aware of like the power dynamic force, but when you say that they shouldn't interact at all, what you're saying is women are too fucking dumb to be agents over themselves. My wife, one time, she got so pissed when we were talking about something like this, and she's like, you know what, at this fucking point, let's just make sure, she's like, let's just go back to like asking the dad if you can date the girl, because that's where we're at. If you don't think a woman is responsible enough to be able to consensually fuck a guy that has more money or more like, or is famous, then you just think women are too fucking stupid to make their own decisions. Let the dads go back to making decisions for them. We'll go back to the tradition, because that's where it's going full circle. You know, women can figure out if they want to date. Like, oh, she's only 19 and she wanted to date that 30-year-old. He's taking advantage of her. She's an adult. If she makes a mistake, she's not going to be fucking traumatized. She'll just learn that some people have negative intentions. You know, maybe he just wanted to fuck her or whatever. But like, she's an adult, and if you treat her like a kid, then what do we do? What's the solution? Well, then you're just gonna have to have other men pass off their girls to other men. But you have to go back to the old ways. And so it's so funny how you're horseshoeing. It really is fucking real. You know, you're removing so much agency from women, where it's like, rich men can't date fucking non-rich women. It's like, now this is just classist, okay? They do this shit other places. Oh, a rich guy and a powerful guy, he can't date a non-powerful rich woman. He can't sleep with them, engage in hookup culture. Oh, okay, so like, let's segregate people by money. Like, like what are you saying here? There are societies where if a person dates down, they lose their status. Is that what we're doing now? Because by your logic, that's where we should be. Feminism means giving agency to women and being okay with women getting upset. Okay? Being upset isn't the same thing as being assaulted. Okay? Having agency and equality, it means that it's okay to make women upset. You shouldn't rape them, obviously, but like, it's okay if it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Let's see. Has a crush. Okay. In a sexual situation, the man is expected to know when to push the gas and when to pump the brakes at all times. That's true. He's supposed to know when she's comfortable, when she's uncomfortable, and when a no really means no and is playful, and when a yes means no too. Now, listen, that could be rough, and I feel like that's probably better fleshed out, like on a conversational. But there are some women where like they want you to push their boundaries a little bit. Maybe a lot of women, but like, I don't like it so boiled down to yes and no. It's Twitter, so like obviously there's nothing better to sneak than that. But like, for context of that, like, there's like a little bit of like ebb and flow in like relationships, you know. Going out to dinner with a girl, she might be like, I'm not gonna kiss you, and then like maybe later you still test that boundary after you have dinner, so you go see if they want to kiss you. And you set the stage of like, they could say no, maybe you go in for the cake and I still kiss, and if they say no again, you stop, right? But some women want you to be a little bit like, because at the beginning of the date they didn't want to fuck you, at the end of the date they might want to, or they might want to just not come off as prude. It's a really hard balance, because like, it's okay to test a boundary as long as you make sure that they understand they can say no to you testing that boundary. Like, they might have said like, we're not doing, let's say, you know, you're hanging this like the third date with a girl, and you go to their house, and like, yeah, maybe she says, hey, you want to come on over, you know, but I don't want to sleep with you. Okay, you go over there. Maybe after an hour or so, you make a little bit of a move and you start kissing, and maybe you do work your hand down. She stops you. Boom. Don't test the boundary anymore. Right? Like, it's okay to do something like that, as long as they understand that, like, it's just a boundary. I get that, right? But most women, like, I haven't had a lot of experiences with that. I've had one crazy woman who like wanted me to rape her on the off chance that she liked it. You know what I mean? So generally respect the boundary, especially if you're like, you're a young guy, you're probably not gonna be able to read the room as well as, you're expected to. You know, there's nothing wrong with like testing a boundary or being like, oh, do you want to fuck? You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with asking. Just don't badger them if they say no again. You know what I mean? If they say at the beginning of the date, I don't want to do anything, and then like after 2 or 3 hours, you know, you've had your time and maybe you're feeling a vibe, because that's the thing. Maybe you're feeling the vibe that she wants to fuck and you go for it and she says no again, leave it there, because you obviously misread that boundary, right? I know it's complicated. Some people get upset with that take, but like, you know, go date and you'll understand what I mean. Okay. Like I said, it's the girl's like, well, when we hang out, I don't want to fuck today. And then like you're feeling a vibe that she wants to, like a couple hours down the line, and you go for it a little bit, as long as like, you know, and she's like, no, I don't want it. I was like, okay. And then back off and don't ever test it again that day. You know what I mean? That's fair. But I had this one girl that I dated, and I remember going to her house once, and like, you know, we were messing around and like stuff, and I wanted to fuck her, so I went to fuck her, and she's like, I don't want to fuck you. I was like, okay. So like whatever, we kept playing before playing, I made her come, and she's like, you know, if you kept trying, I would let you fuck me. I was like, damn, you really wanted me to rape you? It's like, holy fuck, you're a psychopath. Like, holy shit. There are some women like that. Stay away from them. Stay away from them, because that is a fucking like, just stay away from them. Because who knows in today's society, like culture, if I had actually pushed and done what she wanted me to do in the moment, what she could have turned around and said that I did. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been fucking crazy. So stay away from those women that are like really extreme about it. But like, yeah, as a guy, you're kind of expected to be the arbiter of a situation. There is a level of truth. The woman has zero responsibility. If she got too drunk and says yes, the guy is a rapist who should have known she was too drunk for her own good. I will say right there, he's got a point. Like, when a girl's drunk, it's like, oh, she couldn't have consented. When a guy's drunk, like, we don't have an issue. Here's my take. I think that like, just because you're drunk doesn't mean you can't consent. There is a level of drunkenness that you can get to where you can't consent, obviously. Generally, frankly, you should try not to drink till you're fucking blackout drunk, because there's a level of responsibility for your behavior there. At the same time, if you see somebody that's drunk and you're not drunk, don't even engage with them. But I think if two people are like equally drunk and they both make I mean, who's raping whom at that point? You know what I mean? They're both really drunk. You know, I think that I have a problem, because my understanding is like Fresh and Fit will sometimes go to bars and like pick up women when they don't drink though. But it's like weird, like it's creepy. I'm not saying that they're raping anybody, but like, you know, there's a difference between being like a little drunk and tipsy after like 2 or 3, you know, drinks, versus like being fucking blackout where like, ugh, you're staggering. I still think that you should not be engaging with a drunk person if you're not drunk though. Anyway. If she's quiet when he's trying to initiate physical contact, he should have known she was freezing and should have backed off. Yeah, true. Like, you know, you have to advocate. You have to set a boundary, girls, and carry a gun, carry a knife. Okay. You know, there's a difference between like him going for something and you freeze up and you don't do anything, versus like him going for it, you saying no, and then he still goes for it. Then I understand the freezing up, but you have to say, I don't want this first, because 99% of the time, guys don't want to be like a sexual assault. I think most of the time it's like this issue of boundaries where like it's that it gets misinterpreted. I think that a lot of sexual assault happens because like it's not intentional. That doesn't mean it's a woman's fault. Like, I talk about all the time about like the thing where, you know, you're on the date 3 and the guy picks the girl up from his house, takes her like Applebee's 2 for $20, or not 2 for $20, sorry, that's half off apps, and 2 first drinks. There's shit at Applebee's though, whatever. Anyway, they go back to his house, they hang out, maybe he goes for it, she says stop, he goes for it again a little while later, she says stop, goes for it again, and he just keeps pushing, because that's what we're taught to do, right? Especially since porn is our fucking educational process for this stuff. That guy is probably not a rapist, but he did violate that woman, right? And then there are going to be some times where maybe women need to stand up for themselves a little more, and they might feel violated, but if you never say, I don't want this, and you don't communicate that concisely, you know, it sucks. It sucks. Sex is very difficult. It can be very difficult, and people can get upset. But we need to have like proportionate conversations. You know, that probably was the take Destiny was trying to have in his original video. But, you know, I wouldn't say it's most of the time when women are fucking violated sexually, it's because the fucking they didn't set a boundary enough. But I'm sure that does happen. You have to put a boundary down. You have to do that. If you don't say no, and then like they do something, then like how did they know you didn't want it? But if you say no and they keep pushing over and over and over again, then that guy's a rapist, right? So it's a complicated conversation. And I feel like we just don't have it the correct way. A lot of the time, it's hard. It's hard having it the correct way. It really is. If she's uncomfortable during a sexual encounter but doesn't want to voice it, he should have verbally checked in at multiple stages of the encounter. Like I said, it's a good thing to make people feel comfortable that they can verbally express it. Like at some point, be like, hey, you know, if we're doing the do, if you ever do something you don't want me to do, just say no and I'll stop immediately. Boom. That's great. But like, you know, there's nothing wrong with checking in every once in a while. Like, hey, does this feel good? It's a question you can ask somebody. Don't ask it too many times, but it's not a bad thing to communicate, actually. And they might say, like, no, I want to stop. That might actually give them the open to say, I want to stop. Don't be like, is this okay? Do you like this? Is this good? But like every once in a while, you know, set a repeating alarm on your phone for 5 minutes. And I'm just kidding, because I would be done by then, right? No, but there's nothing wrong with checking, especially when you're new to sex with the person, because you know you want to know what they like. It takes it takes a lot to get But yeah, speak up, but also create the comfort level. If she's being unclear about what she wants or her intentions, he should have mind read or continue to interrogate her while simultaneously not destroying the mood and respecting her boundaries and not pressuring her at all and figuring out how she feels while managing his own potential inhibitions and sexual feelings as well. There is a massive burden placed on all men at all stages during flirting, whining, dining, before and after sexual encounters. There is almost zero burden placed on a woman ever. In fact, it is considered insulting or victim blaming to even ask a question about any of the woman's behavior at any stage whatsoever of the sexual interaction. But for the guy, did you give her too much to drink? Did you verbally check in on her? Did you check for freezing response? Did you try to figure out how she's feeling? Did you consider that she's uncomfortable, etc.? So I think these are. There's one more. This is the issue with the left's approach to coercion. You are placing an unbelievable amount of emphasis on the man and zero agency on the woman, which will only lead people to more situations where pressure rape happens, because this advice is unrealistic and for most follow. This is absolutely true. I think some of this probably comes from like historical dating practices, where there are some men like, listen, I'm just gonna say it's probably more likely for a guy to try to get a girl drunk to fuck her than a girl get a guy drunk to fuck him, mostly because men want to fuck more than women. So if a woman wants to fuck, she's pretty much got it. But for guys, women don't generally want to fuck. They might want to fuck as much. Women have high sex drives, but like they want to get to know somebody and fuck somebody that they have feelings for more than men. I could fucking dump my cum in a bucket. It doesn't matter, you know what I mean? I don't give a shit. But for women, it's usually a little more emotional than that. Not all the time. So like that's probably where it comes from. But overall, we want to have the right conversation. Like if you keep setting a standard that the guy is responsible for everything in a physical interaction, then you're teaching women to not have agency over themselves. That's sexist. And so Destiny's right about this, and like fully fleshed out. This is perfect. It makes a lot of sense. It's an uncomfortable read, I think, for some people, because like, you know, it can be open to interpretation sometimes, but like it's true. It's true. I agree with this. I agree with that. That's a very good point. And so knowing this, I think it's safe to say that like knowing this, that Destiny clip was out of context. Right. I think that is safe to say that. He was probably just talking about how like sometimes women don't set a boundary, but it's not the number one cause. But it is definitely not helpful to teach a woman not to, express themselves. Okay, I want to see what Ryan's response. Damn, there's a lot of reading. Okay. So it says, I agree that sexual interactions are complicated, which is why I think that enthusiastic consent model is what keeps both men and women most safe. It keeps women more safe because they get raped less, and it keeps men more safe because they clearly know if a woman is consenting. Okay, I understand. I do understand, like, the enthusiastic consent model is a good idea ideally, but it just doesn't necessarily manifest itself all the time in the real world like that. Like, explicit yeses and nos, we should push to that point. But sometimes things can be more complicated than that, and it can be really hard to express how complicated that is to somebody who doesn't understand hookup culture. And I love Ryan. I don't think that Ryan understands hookup culture. And so there's some things that are difficult to communicate, at least for me. I don't know if I can fully articulate how the different ways can be difficult in different, aspects, because I just know being in the situation that it's more of a delicate dance. Because especially since a lot of women want to fuck guys, but they don't want to be the ones to make the move because they don't want to feel like a whore. You know, which comes into societal shaming of women for liking sex. So that's another conversation out. And it could be tough, you know, because, you know, women just need to speak up more. I think is a big thing. Not exclusively. Men need to be more emotionally intelligent, but women do need to speak up more, because it's one of those weird things where, like, if we have women who want to fuck you, but they don't want to say they want to fuck you because society will shame them for being a whore, it sets the stage that men have to interpret every interaction. And it makes men too comfortable pushing boundaries. And so we need to stop sex shaming women. And we need to teach women to stand up to set a boundary harder. And we need to teach women to respect those boundaries and to make these issues less complicated. So that, like, if it's one of those things where, like, oh, she wants to fuck him and he's pushes a little bit and she's like, yes, like, I want to fuck him. But now he's going to push everything. So she's like, I want to fuck you with a condom. And he's like, I don't want to with a condom. And now he's just conditioned to, like, constantly push boundaries. It's so complicated. Enthusiastic consent is a great idea. But at the end of the day, I fuck girls without enthusiastic consent. For me, I mean, like, I didn't want to fuck them. I felt bad. There's like a couple girls that I met off, like, Tinder and shit. And, like, they have, like, you know, it's called the Decepticon angle. Right? We got Autobots, we got to roll out. And they take these pictures, right, from up there. And you're like, oh, she's cute. Or that picture might be a year old and, you know, 40 pounds lighter. See him in person, you're like, damn. And, you know, you don't want to be inconsiderate. And so the principle I live by is, got to see it through, my boy. So I'd fuck these girls. I'd pay for dinner, I'd fuck them. And I consented, but I would have left if I could. It's just such a complicated conversation, you know. You got to respect Destiny for coming to the table on it. I'm sure some women do that too. Like, they feel bad for guys, so they fuck them. But it's not like non-consensual. They're like, all right, I'll fuck this guy. You know what I mean? It's what it is. That's why we should educate men to stop pushing for sex if they aren't getting enthusiastic consent. And I agree with you that they should also educate women to explicitly assert their boundaries. Yeah, I agree too. It's just like, again, it could be difficult, especially when like, we have a societal standard that shames women for liking sex, and so they may not give an enthusiastic yes, so they kind of want you to push their boundaries. And then, like, that's why we should advocate for women to say, like, give explicitly, like, no boundaries and stop fucking around sometimes. And we need to, like, educate men on taking that no for a fucking answer. You know, it's so complicated. You know, it's so hard to articulate. This conversation is draining it, and it's difficult. You know, it sucks. My main criticism this whole time is just that you shouldn't be calling women emotionally manipulating men rape. We could talk about how women shouldn't emotionally manipulate people. We should talk about that more. Not more than the other thing. I just think we should talk about that a little more than we are. Friend zoning is, I think I'm going to a point, like, after this whole debacle, you know, I do like a lot of sexual assault advocation when we have this conversation. I think I want to focus more on, like, don't friend zone men. And, like, don't be a fuckboy. But, like, it's really shitty to friend zone a man, you know, because it's a destructive, especially since, like, I've learned that one of the reasons I was a bit of a fuckboy is because I was friend zoned so hard. I was cuck zoned. I got chalk zoned, guys. Rudy's got the chalk, but not me. I don't have the chalk because it wouldn't get hard because I was so is what it is, brother. Anytime you're feeling depressed or you feel like you have a trauma, guys, is what it is. Somebody destroyed your sexual confidence when you were younger. Hey, it is what it is. There you go. But if something like that happens to a woman, she's a victim. There's a little level of truth to that. Not all women, not all men. But I do find myself saying, I see comments sometimes, and I'll, like, say some fucked up shit I don't even realize is fucked up about what happened to me, and someone was like, "Damn, that's fucked." Like, and I was, it is what it is. That's just what I say. My wife says, she says sometimes, I don't even know if I know you. I feel like you don't ever talk about, like, really fucked up things, and then sometimes you'll just drop these bangers like, "Oop, LOL, somebody broke into my house once." Like, and you know, she's like, that partially explains why you're constantly getting up and seeing if the doors are locked. And I was like, hey, yeah. And I say, hey, that is what it is, brother. What are you gonna do? I say brother to everybody, even girls. You know, and it's like, if I have a deep-seated trauma, keep it in there. I don't want to know about it. I don't need to work through it. Okay. Sometimes it's best left in there. Sometimes you should talk about it, but like that's the thing is like therapists will get you to realize shit that happened to you that I don't even want to consider it. You know what I mean? Because fuck. No one should be emotionally. Okay, cool. Yeah, I get you. All right, I think that's pretty much it. That's why we should educate men. Okay, we got that. There's a burden on both parties. There's more burden on men to read women's boundaries, and there's a burden on women to keep themselves safe. That's fair. That's true. I think that women worrying about possibly being assaulted is a bigger burden than men worrying about being reading boundaries. So this I agree so much, and I touched on this earlier, but this is where I don't like this. Okay, this is true. There's a burden on both parties, and they're different. Like I said, I'd rather be the man that has more responsibility to read the signals than be the woman that has to keep themselves safe. However, I think that women worrying about being assaulted is a bigger burden than men worrying about misreading boundaries. It comes off as dismissive, and it gets into a almost oppression Olympics. I might be being a little much there, but it gets into the comparison of struggle. And I think that's a bad thing to compare. Who has it worse is not as productive as how do you have it and let's talk about it. And how do you have it and let's talk about it. And let's all talk about it together. That's more unifying. We don't need to see which one is better or which one is worse or which those are bad. And based on most people's personal values, you'll probably find that the woman's burden is worse. I think so. But if you disagree with me, if we had the conversation, you're still going to think both are bad, and you're going to value it enough to be considerate of it. And that's what we're going for. So it doesn't matter which one is or isn't worse. They're both pretty bad, though. They're both not good, right? And we should talk about them both, and we should value both of them, because that's how you have the right conversation, right? But pushing for enthusiastic consent model takes pressure off both parties. I think we read that already. And when you, both parties, if we educate, no, it didn't. If we educate everyone to require enthusiastic consent, men don't have to worry about reading boundaries, and women don't have to worry about being assaulted. I think in general, these two things are always good. I think that even if we educate people, there's still going to be, at least for a long time, where men are still going to be more in control of these situations. Because I think that women like men being in a little more control, but they like it when the man's in control and they like what the man is controlling, right? I make most of the decisions for myself and my wife, but my wife is very vocal when I make a decision she does not like. And I like making the decisions for us. And I think that maybe that's partially just the way that we were raised in our society, but also there's probably maybe a biological factor to that. I enjoy making the decisions. My wife enjoys me making the decisions. But the thing that makes our dynamic work really well is my wife is very vocal when I make a decision she doesn't like. And it's really good feedback for me, and it makes us both happy. And that's the best way that like you want to interact in an interaction, right? And so it's going to be difficult. We can't just we're never going to be perfectly equal. We should all have equal opportunity, but we're also going to take different roles. Some people want to be more submissive. Some people want to be more dominating. It's going to mostly be submissive women and dominating men. But you got to teach those women to be able to stand up for themselves, and you got to teach those men to respect women standing up for themselves too, because a good man will respect a woman standing up for herself. Right? So that's something that's very important. And when you say burden, I hope you don't mean a moral burden, because women aren't morally responsible to get raped. The moral responsibility is the person initiating a sexual encounter to get clear consent. No, that part. No. And when you say burden, I hope you don't mean a moral burden, because when women aren't morally responsible when they get raped, that's true, they're not. The moral responsibility is on the person initiating a sexual encounter to get clear consent. No. Yes and no. Because men tend to initiate the sexual encounters. It is still a moral responsibility for a woman to say no if they don't want something. 1000%. If he pushes past that no, he raped her. But you can't just say that the opposite party doesn't have a responsibility to say, I don't like this thing. Okay? Because, let's say it was both consensual when it started, and then she just loses, she just no longer wants to fuck. And she doesn't say anything. How the fuck does he know, right? You need to be vocal. You need to stand up for yourselves. You need to express the no. There are abusive men that'll keep going. I think most men would stop if you say, I don't want this anymore. Maybe that's a cope for me. But like I've been there where the girl's like, I don't want this. I was like, I'll stop. Especially if you do a little BDSM. Got to be very good about the boundaries there. And a lot of times they want to pick back up afterwards. They just need a breather, So that's, again, I think that this one is a little bit tone deaf because what I hear, maybe I'm misinterpreting it, is women don't need to say no. That's what I hear. That's what this says to me. And I've been pretty critical, I think, at least on the way that Destiny talks about some stuff. So I want to make sure that I'm applying that equally. Oh my goodness. We still got more? Oh my god. There's more stuff here? Wow, I don't even think I'm going to put in my original take. Holy fuck. He's saying that there should be more burden on women with regard to keeping themselves safe. That doesn't seem to exist today. When your advice to women to assert their when you advise women to assert their boundaries, it gets interpreted as victim blaming. The problem is that when a lot of men express ways for women to keep themselves more safe, they're implying that women are morally responsible if they don't keep themselves safe. Not saying that what Destiny is doing, but that's why. Okay, yeah. Well, that's called victim blaming when a woman is raped and you're like, well, why didn't you? But that's not where we're at. I feel like we used to be at a spot where women would say no more. And then like the rape was, it was explicit rape. And now we're getting to a point where like, because we're not advocating for women to say no, because anytime you hear that it's victim blaming, now women just don't say no sometimes. And like, we're just not having the right conversation online. A lot of young people are eating up this shit, and we need to make sure that we have the right conversation. And I think the biggest problem that we have online is adults. Adults online are the biggest problem. They're a fucking plague. And I'm going to explain to you why. It is a moral responsibility of an adult to assert themselves better against dumb shit. On TikTok and Twitter, it's mostly kids. That's what I think. I think that if you take the audience of people interacting with your content there and you put them in a room, they would need a lot of chaperones. And a lot of times adults on the internet will get feedback from people and they will see the no PFP person or no profile picture person, this random person, as like equal to them. And I'm not trying to be rude, but unless I realize that you're like an adult, like you're not equal to me. And I'm not trying to be rude because I don't want young people to think I don't like them, because there's a lot of very intelligent young people, but I'm older and I have like different life experience. And like, it's my responsibility to assert like, hey, listen, I'm more experienced in life. And so generally an older person with more life experience, at least when you get into like the 30s, because I feel like things start to shift at that point. I probably know more than a 14-year-old boy on the internet. Okay? This is a hot take. Fucking hot take. I know myself. I don't remember too much of my 14s, but I know myself from 20 up, and I was getting every year I was like, damn, I was a fucking idiot. And now I don't do that so much. I learn more, but I look back at my last year, I'm like, there's some improvement, but I don't think I was a fucking idiot. You can't, and what happens is like that, those are the fucking people that are like, oh my God, 19, 17 are grooming. Oh my God, I'm 17. They're 17. They think that everything's fucking grooming. As an adult, you need to say no. You need to stand up and say no. And if you get backlash for it, good. Who cares? Like, you're an adult. And, that's why like this conversation, there needs to be like this, because there's some people who will just give and be like, yeah, you know what? Not the right conversation to have. Okay, I think we mostly got everything. I think we mostly got everything. Oh, because there's so much. This person's Jewish and disabled, so I have to read what they said. Fuck. Also ignores that there's a lot of internal reasons as to why many women won't give a clear answer. Like, it's kind of a safety thing in terms of ambiguity, because if you say no, you might possibly get violent and a reaction. This is the problem, though. You have to say no. You might get a violent reaction. You probably won't. The guy might be angry, like pissed. He might be like, "Oh fuck!" But most of the time, you're not going to get somebody to hate you. You have to say no. If you're not setting a boundary because you don't want to get hurt, I get it. But you have to be. Then don't have sex. Because like, you have to be able to say no, because what you're saying is that if the guy interprets everything wrong, then you can never say no. What does that mean for you? Definitely don't engage in hookup culture, but you have to state that boundary. You have to say, no, I don't want this thing. And then if they get violent and start like, they're like, I'm not going to stop. Then I understand why you freeze up. But if you don't make it clear that boundary, that intention of like, nope, I don't like this, then how can you expect it? Because this is the thing. Because like in a practical scenario, both of you consent to having sex, and then he might do something you don't like. And if you don't say, I don't like this, then how the fuck are you, you know what I mean? Because that's how the most of the ways that this is going to manifest is to a guy and a girl are going to consensually fuck each other, and then maybe the guy will do something the girl doesn't like. Because let's be honest too, a huge moral responsibility a huge burden for men as well is they have to be good in bed. Women don't have to be good in bed. Men are like 80% of the sexual interaction, okay? They're the ones that are, like, there are women who will get on top and they'll grab their ankles, and God bless you. You're a fucking national treasure. But most women lay there and they get fucked. And that's okay. I want that. I do not ever want my wife to put me in a fucking Amazon pose and start fucking me, because that'll make me feel emasculated, okay? I want to be the one fucking. I don't want to get fucked, okay? But it's still a lot for a guy. And so if you start doing something and you don't like it, you have to say, like, hey, I don't like this. You know what I mean? You have to say, hey, I don't like this. And I think most men will be like, oh, sorry. Because most of the time, like, it's like, oh, I don't like this, change it up. Most of the time, like, the sexual consent conversation is not even that, like, girls want to not fuck. They're just like, I just don't like this. And they'll sometimes just sit there and take it. That's, like, say something. You know, like, I don't want to get super personal, but my wife and I, we do it. Duh. There are times where we're doing it, and maybe she's not as ready, right? And she may not say something because she doesn't want me to feel bad. But then after I realize that she wasn't as ready when she tells me, you know, because, you know, listen, sometimes you gotta loosen it before you go in, you know. It is, you know, they don't call me Papa Gut for nothing. Because I'm popping in those fucking guts. Boom, boom, boom. But me personally, I don't want to do it until she's ready. So when we had that conversation, we changed the way we had sex a little bit. And I make sure that she's ready more now. Like, it's very simple stuff. You know, consent is tricky, and that we only talk about it in yeses and nos, and not like just shift the gear. You know what I mean? Maybe you're doing it too hard. Maybe you want it to do a little harder. Or maybe the way that they're fucking you is like rubbing on like the bottom of your fucking pussy in a way that like is literally chafing you and burning you. You know what I mean? And they need to hit it like a different angle that's not going to hurt as much. There's so many different ways. You have to communicate with each other. It's not just about yeses and nos. Sometimes it's about left and right. You know, it's just about like hitting the groove a little differently. That's where most of the consent conversation really lies in. Because if you're not enjoying the sex, you're going to want it less. But like if you're having a good experience, if you're like, hey, slow down at first. Maybe the guy likes to fuck hard. Okay, sorry, I don't need to get too explicit. But maybe the girl's just like, hey, slow it down at first. I need to warm up into it. Oh, shit. All of a sudden, you know, they're warming up into it. Maybe they're fucking for like 5 or 10 minutes. She's getting into it. And she's like, yeah, fuck me harder. Boom, boom. And you start to go harder and harder. And like now you start hitting that pace you wanted to, but she's loving it now because she was able to get like warmed up into it. You know, maybe she wants a little bit more foreplay. These are really good things to get her more sexually involved and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, get a little nasty, bro. You know, like the other day, my wife and I went out. We had a nice date night. I love that I have date nights with my wife. It's incredible. It's so much fun. And my wife looked hot. Like she was just wearing something like where her fucking tits were like looking fucking beautiful. She had like a big, I don't know, her ass was so fat. So while we're playing around, I'm getting a little dirty and I'm telling her about like all the things like that I saw her. I was like, I saw you, you know, you were walking in the mall, you know, you were walking towards me, and I was like, oh, you're so fucking hot. You were so hot, like like that. And I was saying all these nasty things to her. She was like eating it up. She loved it. You know what I mean? Like that's all contributing to a greater conversation about like, oh, this was a good thing. This was like a lot of fun. So I'm just saying, I think we should talk about it in that capacity. This is where it gets tricky. I think all we can do is analyze what statistics keeps women the most safe, then encourages them to do that. That doesn't mean they're emotionally responsible if they freeze up. It's just in sex ed we should educate. Okay, best outcome, sure, whatever. This is funny though, because this fucking abusive piece of shit, you know, Mr. Girl that is literally emotionally abuses his girlfriend on, you know, videos and admits to being physically abusive and seemingly only stopped because he realized that the girls weren't actually giving him what he wanted, just what they thought he wanted. And weighed in. Of course, he should be the one weighing in on sex, this degenerate fucking half-breed piece of shit. Oh, sorry, he's Jewish. It's nothing to do with that. I'm also ethnically Jewish. He's just a disgusting fucking loser with no moral. I don't want people to think it's because he's Jewish. I don't want to, like, he's a fucking piece of shit scumbag loser because he's not a real man. He's a piece of shit. Okay, that does it. Like, he's just a fucking loser, disgusting, abusive, like less than a man, scum fuck. Okay. Weighing in on sexual assault conversation, so fucking based. So based. So he says a male feminist must act against his own interest. No, incorrect. It is in the interests of a male to advocate for women. I wouldn't call myself a fucking male feminist because that's weird and cringe. But it is in the best interest of a man to advocate for women's rights because you should respect women equally and you want them. Like, I want, when I'm having sex especially, the woman to tell me that she does or doesn't like a thing because I get off to making the person I'm with enjoy it, which I don't think is super fucking abnormal. I think a lot of people like it when the person they're with enjoys the experience. I advocate, like I try to advocate for the right conversation because I want people to, I love my wife and I want women to be treated like my wife. And I want men to be treated like I get treated by my wife. Okay? So this is just a dumb fucking, like, this guy's a morbidly unintelligent dumb piece of shit who thinks that he's artistic. And I've had friends like that. They think this is artsy. They're like, oh, I take pictures and I'm so fucking like, oh, I'm so controversial. They're not controversial because what they have to say is meaningful. Destiny's controversial, but I'd say most of the time, other than where sometimes maybe he might, rage bait a little bit, is controversial, but he's trying to be consistent, having the right conversation. Max tries to make you uncomfortable and calls that controversial. He's not. He's just a dumb fucking piece of shit that's trying to get an emotional rise out of you. This person shouldn't be weighing in on anything. So this guy's a fucking moron. This is the dumbest fucking, like, fake intelligent thing I've ever seen. Male feminist must act against his own interests. Like, what? What a stupid thing to say. You're a fucking moron. This is not true. Well, I mean, Ryan, you shouldn't even given this dumb piece of shit any fucking anything. While yes, male feminists have to give up some political and social power, they benefit in other ways, like being able to express their emotions more freely and not being so heavily expected to be financial prized. Listen, the only way that you should talk about Mr. Girl is when it is understanding that he is a fucking worthless person and nothing that he has to say is valuable at all. There's no reason to engage in any practical discourse with them because it doesn't exist. They're a provocateur and somebody that thinks that they're intelligent with like no real life experience. They're a fucking piece of shit. Okay, wouldn't have even responded to that. Okay, I think we're good. We're not. We got a little Willard Mackerton. Your ideal world around everyone enthusiastically verbally saying yes to each other over and over again while initiating sex does not reflect a real one we live in. That's true. A shorter term answer for many cases of rape where the guy doesn't even realize he's doing it is that women enthusiastically and repeatedly say no. Sure. I think what I'm just trying to interpret it. I think what he's saying is that, like, in the situation where the woman is enthusiastically saying no and the guy doesn't listen, that is rape. That's all anyone is saying, but you just repeat yourself and end a cycle. Listen, here's the problem. Because I like Willie Mack. He's a good guy, makes good videos, and I like Ryan. The problem is that Ryan is not edgy, and I usually fall into the edgier crowd. Willie Mack is like an edgier guy, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, I'm an edgy guy too. Okay, but people in the non-edgy sphere fucking hate Ryan, and it bothers me a little bit because I like both of them, and I feel like some of the energy. It's like this last line is like. It feels, and maybe I'm operating with my feelings too much, more like assigning intentional negative intentionality to Ryan. When like Ryan's just a different person with like a different life experience. And like we're molded by our experiences. And like when I first started making content, I got very viral very quickly. And you're like, oh, I'm not bragging. It was not a good thing necessarily. You learn. I grew up in a place that was very blunt. I was very assertive, but it was very kind. I respond very well to bluntness, assertiveness, and kindness. Okay, and kindness means different things to me, right? I guess, right? Like I had a scoutmaster, incredible guy, the best scoutmaster ever. He was a fucking Vietnam War vet. He would say some raunchy shit that would get him in trouble. And you know what? A lot of people found him uncomfortable. When my mother entered the troop as like a committee chair, guess what? He would say something inappropriate. You know what my mom would say? Hey, too far. You know what he would do? Oh, sorry. That's it. That's as far as it goes. That's as far as it goes. He never wanted to be disrespectful. This is a man that did more than pretty much any other scoutmaster would do. He would go on monthly like camping trips with us, which is like a really part of like building. He would give us constant like life advice. He would once a year he would take like a week vacation off and do like the yearly week off. We would do like a Camp Yagug. He was really active. He was really considerate. He cared about his members. When his son aged, like eagled out and aged out, he stayed on for a little while longer to make sure that like a lot of the other boys that were there. And I think part of it was me too. Like we're able to have a positive experience moving through. He cared about everybody. He was just a little bit blunt, and sometimes he was a little inappropriate, but he didn't mean to be disrespectful. That's where I come from. That's the world I respond to really well. I don't mind people who are rough around the edges because a lot of times those people mean what they say and they care about what's going on, right? And I learned that like that's not everybody. Somebody like Ryan in my sphere, if they acted like that, would be a virtue signal. I don't think I've ever met anybody in person in my sphere that acted like such like a nice person where it wasn't like duplicitous in some capacity, where they're actually just having like putting on like a oh. And so when I first interacted with Ryan, like I thought that they meant poorly, right? And I've learned since. And like I've like, wow, wait, there are different people that are different than me. What the fuck? And so like I just like I wish people would understand that more. Just wish people would understand that more about Ryan. Ryan is a good person. He's a good person, okay? Stop shitting on my friend. Stop. Yes, I'm aware that currently people don't tend to get explicit consent. That's exactly what leads to problems of people not being on the same page. I'm not saying you need to get verbal yes and over and over. I'm saying the boundaries should be established beforehand. Sure. But one of those boundaries needs to be that the girl and the guy can say, I want to stop at any time. Because again, a lot of times it's a consensual at the beginning. And then things might change as it goes on. And if you can't tell that girl to express that she no longer consents to sex, then the guy's not going to know. And then she's like, well, I froze up. I couldn't say no. Well, why? You guys, well, we consented to it originally. Then we started doing it. I didn't like something. And instead of saying no or I don't like this, I froze up and didn't do anything. And I just waited for it to finish. You need to say, he's under the impression that this is consensual. It has to be, one of the boundaries that are set has to be the ability to say, let's stop. Okay. All right, and sometimes you may not even want to stop. You might like not like it and just be like, all right, let's wait for this fucking asshole to finish. You know what I mean? Like I've been there. It is what it is. For fucking girls, I don't know if girls ever do that to me. I hope not. I'd feel so bad. I'd feel like a piece of. Mostly because then that means I wasn't good at bed. You know. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. We've just. This was literally. Oh, this is Erudite saying that, like, apologizing, basically. Come on, you're better than this. I agree, significant amount of them are, but not most. I agree. At Ryan Beard, I overstep by saying you're LARPing as a feminist. I appreciate some of these people for calling me out on being charitable, as the Q-tiers said. I don't know what the fuck that means. Many male feminists are fake, but not all are. I genuinely apologize for overstep. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I think that's it. We just did it. I came on here to do a half-an-hour segment, and I meant to put the out of context Destiny clips, my initial reaction to it, at the end here, because I thought this conversation was going to be really productive, because what I said was productive, even if like what I said was based on a misinterpretation of what Destiny has said. But I'm not going to do that, because I think that this I at least I hope so, but I feel that this conversation was very productive enough and already pretty cumbersome. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna go shit and take a shower. I love you guys. Thank you for watching.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.